Hey there, beautiful people. It's Dina bringing another daily dose. Last couple of days, we've been talking about a heavy subject, and it's moms in crisis. And I'll tell you what, I've tried to record this video multiple times, so there is something that the enemy is trying to stop. So we're going to keep on going, regardless of what comes up to try to take away this. No weapon formed against us will prosper. So as I was sharing, there is such a state of overwhelm in parents right now. And obviously, my heart goes out to moms and wives because that's who I am and that's who God has called me to minister to. I know that He's called me to be somebody that helps to heal the brokenhearted and mend up the wounds of those that are crushed in spirit, because I was that. I was a mom that lived in deep depression and despair and hid that behind this mask. Nobody probably would have known that I was struggling through what I was struggling through. And I've shared very openly about my journey and how God brought me from this place of despair and wanting to end my life to a place of thriving in all areas of my life. Now, when I say thriving, that doesn't mean that everything in my life is going well. It means that God has brought me through that and transformed me. And He's made me resilient and strengthened me to walk through difficult situations. And I can still find peace and joy even in the most messy, upsetting situations. I can come back and return to Him and find that peace and joy. I know who my identity is. I know who God is. And that's what I walk through. And I also know how to take my authority against the real enemy, which is not my husband or my kids or anybody else in the flesh. There is a real enemy that it's out to kill, steal, and destroy our families. And I'm just not going to let him have that power anymore. So this is why I share so openly about this. But obviously, I do understand that there's other people that are struggling and hurting, just like I said. But my heart goes out to moms. And a lot of the research that I've done recently, I'm in the middle of writing my book and my course, and I'm just doing research on what is the state of affairs for moms, especially special needs moms. There's a lot of information out there for caregiver burnout. I didn't realize there was actually a term for stay-at-home mom burnout, and many special needs moms are stay-at-home moms. Now, I'm not taking anything away from moms that actually have to work outside the house. I imagine your stress load is pretty high as well. Some of us can't work outside the house because our child requires 24/7 care, and it's just not economical to work outside of the house and have care. Some children, it takes specialized care to help them. Now, my daughter doesn't need specialized care, but she definitely needs one-on-one attention all the time. And we've tried the outside schooling and therapies, and that just doesn't work. She really needs constant attention, and she needs help. And I've just taken on that role to be a stay-at-home mom. So there's things that you have to give up in doing that. A lot of times I felt like I gave up my identity because my identity was in a mom, not necessarily as a person or whatever the career was. And that was something that God had to really work me through, that my identity is not as a mom. It's not as a wife. It's as a daughter. It's as God's daughter. And I had to understand and operate from that place and partner with Him, that everything else that I do from that place, that's not my identity. My identity is in Him. My role is a mom. My role is a wife. And so from operating from that place, your stress level goes down. If you're operating from a place of, this is all I have, this is what my life is, I'm just going to be a mom for the rest of my life, I'm just going to be a wife for the rest of my life, and I don't get to do anything else, that's where that stress comes in, where that overwhelm comes in, where you feel like you're crushed on all sides. So in that statistic that I shared, 1 in 3 moms feels, they've considered self-harm because they're so stressed and their lack of hope and overwhelmed in their circumstances. My heart hurts because I know that these moms don't know their true identity. They don't understand that there's a God of the universe that has partnered with them, that is right there with them. So many times we're operating in our own striving. We're trying to figure this thing out, and we weren't called to figure this out. He definitely called us to do this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the children or the lives that we have. But He didn't ask us to do this alone. So anyway, we've been talking about that, and God was telling me that it really comes back to a place of rest. If you're in this striving, feeling like I don't know if I can even go on anymore, it comes back to resting in Him, which is what I'm going to be sharing over the next couple of weeks. But I came across this stay-at-home mom burnout syndrome, which I didn't even know existed. I knew all of the characteristics of somebody that was struggling with this. I just didn't know that it was labeled stay-at-home mom syndrome. Or actually, it's called stay-at-home mom burnout. That's actually a terminology, a diagnosis now. So anyway, stay-at-home mom burnout refers to a state of chronic stress and exhaustion experienced by moms who have a full-time job of taking care of a home and kids. Burnout can also impact mothers who have careers outside of the home. However, stay-at-home mom burnout can be more difficult to spot because of misconceptions that these women have more time, less stress, and an easier role than those who have additional responsibilities. So this is what I want to shed light on, because again, I'm not taking anything away from somebody who has to work outside of the home, especially a single mom who's doing both roles. They're working outside of the house as a provider. They're doing all the caretaking. They're being the mom and the dad and the provider. I can't even imagine what that heavy load is, but I do know that God is still with you. I do know that He is there with somebody who feels crushed in spirit. He actually saves those that are crushed in spirit. There's so many scriptures that I've shared with you over the last few weeks that talk to that. But I want to break off some stereotypes of a stay-at-home mom, that you have more time, that you can do more things. I think what actually happens is that people misunderstand that because they think we're not working outside of the house. But if you're a stay-at-home mom, especially have little ones, I know a lot of special needs kids are like little ones. So my daughter's 14, but she's got the mental capacity or cognitive functioning of a toddler sometimes, or a small child. Sometimes she can interact as a teenager, but most of the time it's like I'm dealing with somebody between 2 and 6 years old a lot of times, because she still can't care for herself. She doesn't dress herself or bathe herself, brush her own teeth. She doesn't really know how to make any food other than a sandwich. So everything I do is caring for her. So in that role, you are working nonstop from the time you wake up. The demands of somebody that can't do things on their own, it's like never ending. It's exhausting. And then you're responsible. So if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're not contributing financially, I talked about this yesterday, there's almost like this guilt that comes up that you're not providing financially. So now you've got to do all this extra stuff to make up for that. So you're doing all the extra things so that you're contributing to the household, whether it's all the cleaning, the cooking, the laundry, the taking care of the children, whatever that is. But here's the thing. If you are doing that all day, and you don't get out of the house, and you don't get to have a break where you are getting to interact with other people, that weighs on your self-esteem. That weighs on your worth. It feels like this is all I'm here to do. I know I'm kind of stumbling through my words, but I'm just trying to get out what I'm trying to say here. Some of the symptoms of a stay-at-home mom burnout are depression, anxiety, insomnia, self-doubt, mental exhaustion, irritability, mom rage. Have you ever had mom rage? I definitely have had mom rage. Loneliness and isolation, suicidal or escape ideations, overwhelm, or feeling like you have no time for yourself, even substance use. Okay, so feeling like you have no time for yourself, that's really what I was trying to express, is that it just feels like there's nothing outside of my role as a mom and me. And so that's what I had to really learn how to do, even if it's brief moments. So I might not be able to, take long weekends away with my girlfriends, if you even have friends, like honestly, unless you have another friend that is in your same role. So that's why my friend Christine and I do our podcast, because she's a stay-at-home mom. She has 11 kids. She's a foster mom and an adoptive mom. And so she understands what it's like to work really hard taking care of children and not getting to get out and actually having a lot of time with friends. So even if you have one friend that can understand that. But there is something about not being able to get out of your house. Like, I can't take Gracie everywhere we go. A lot of times it's very challenging for her to be out in public, even going to the grocery store. So I am stuck in my house all the time with her. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that sometimes just getting out for a few minutes by yourself is like a luxury. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have a child that can't do that with you, it's very hard to do. Now, I've seen moms that have all their kids in tow and they're at the grocery store and they got like 4 kids in their shopping cart. I commend you. I respect you. Not every mom can take their kids to the grocery store. And I do understand there's moms that are like, I don't have a choice. There isn't anybody here. I've got to go to the grocery store. And I definitely take Gracie with me. But a lot of times my mom will take her one day a week and everything that I have to do has to be done on that day. So I'm not getting a day for Dina. I'm not getting a day to rest and recuperate and do all of that. So anyway, causes of stay-at-home mom burnout. The job of being a stay-at-home mom can be demanding and lonely. Managing stress as a mom is important for your mental health and your health of your family. I believe so much that if a mom is thriving, then her home is thriving. And I don't know what your situation is. My husband works a lot, and so I'm not saying that he doesn't contribute, he doesn't help, but honestly, most moms are the ones that have the majority of the responsibility of raising the kids and taking care of a family. I know we live in a world that, can look any way now. I'm saying if you're in a traditional family and a traditional marriage, then a lot of times the husband is doing things that you're not doing. He's the one that's working full time. He's the one that's taking care of the majority of our outside stuff. And we work it out between the two of us. But I'm just saying that still doesn't mean that I don't feel burnt out and that I don't need a break. And unmanaged for too long, that can take its toll on you. Some other causes of stay-at-home mom burnout may include financial stress. I shared that yesterday. Sometimes I feel guilty that I can't provide financially. Now, I do believe that God will change that. But a lot of times, just trying to work outside of the house and been taking care of daycare or whatever that might be, it just doesn't make any sense to do that. Efforts aren't appreciated or reciprocated. No one else can share the workload. That's the other thing, too. Most of what I have to do, I have to do. My husband can't necessarily take care of the hygiene and all of the things that a 14-year-old girl needs, and she really only wants me to do that. Now, obviously, if something happened to me, he'd have to figure that out. There's a stigma and a self-judgment about our role. Like I said, we just have so much time on our hands, and that people feel like we are the ones that should not be complaining. A lot of times there is a lack of support. There's isolation and a lack of connection, lack of resources in managing stress. So anyway, this is a very big article, and I'm going to break that down over the next couple days. But really, this is just to kind of raise awareness that there is a stay-at-home mom burnout syndrome. Whatever that is, whatever they want to label that. Again, I said I'm not much for let's own this diagnosis, but if it does help you to understand what you're walking through, and I've shared a lot that this really affects your stress system. If you haven't watched the Junk Drawer Mamas episode that we just did, I'll link that in the description. We just talked about the scientific parts of when your body is in a high state of stress for long periods of time, and you're in this chronic state of stress, and it turns into complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and what that does in your body and your stress response system. It shuts down. Your nervous system is fried. If you're not recuperating and you're not doing the things mentally that you need to do to stay strong, your body shuts down, your mind shuts down, and then you can't even manage just basic stress, like environmental stress. You end up getting things like autoimmune diseases because your body can't fight off inflammation. It's in a high state of inflammation, in a high state of chronic cortisol, which is flushing through your body, which actually ends up getting stored. So you might even struggle with weight issues like I do, because your cortisol and your insulin levels are so out of balance that it ends up storing it as fat. That's another whole topic right there in and of itself too. So anyway, I know this is kind of all over the place. This was more of just an informational thing than a daily encouragement, but I just really feel like God is telling me to share this so that other moms can feel that there is somebody out there that is fighting for you, somebody out there that is researching it, bringing this forth. We are trying to raise awareness of that. So if you know a mom that is a stay-at-home mom, a mom of a special needs child, and she needs a break, help her out. Even if it's just a few minutes where she can get away and just refresh herself, take the kids or do whatever. If you're a dad that's watching, help a mama out. Help her to just have some time. Even if you're doing a lot of stuff too, this isn't about a competition. This is about understanding that somebody who has the responsibility of caring 24/7 for another human being does need a break so they can care for themselves. So anyway, remember that God is with us through all of this up and down, stressful type of life. And he didn't bring us this, he didn't bring this life to us so that we can just struggle through it. Jesus died for us so that we can live a life of abundance, that we can thrive in all areas of our life. We don't honor him at all when we strive and stress and worry and we forget that promise that he gave to us. So remember, God has a plan for our lives. It is good, I promise you, even if you're in a difficult season that you're walking through right now. There is an end to this, I promise you. And I love you, and I can't wait for us to be back together again. So thanks for sticking around this long, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have an awesome day. Bye.